the Women in Business podcast. Insights from top financial professionals. Strategies to grow your practice. The future is female. It all begins here.
We're really excited because Jenny is going to be at our live event in September, and we rarely get the opportunity to give the backstory history of one of our guest presenters before they're even here. So get to know one of our presenters, which we're super excited about. So Jenny is, for anybody that's in the Minnesota area and Minneapolis area, a lot of people are going to recognize your voice. So even with you not on camera, a lot of people here would recognize your voice. Jenny is the co-host and executive producer of 101.3 KDWB. So we're super excited to have her here today, and we're really going to dive into, Jenny, just your history, your background. So we're not going to dive into podcasts, we're not going to dive into radio, we're going to save all of that fun information and share in September, but really excited to have you here and really entering in your world, really. So getting to understand your world a little bit more. So Jenny, one thing is, yeah, if we can just have you jump in and kind of share a little bit of background on your story.
Sure. So, if you want to know my whole life, we're going to be here for a long time, but we'll skip that. I'm originally from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and then I came to the Twin Cities for college. So that's how I ended up in radio. But, as one does in college, you don't exactly know what you want to do with your life. It's crazy that at 18, they're like, pick your degree and this is what you want to do for the rest of your life when you don't even know how to pay a bill yet. So I went into college thinking I'm going to do something with music. That was my goal. And originally I thought I would want to be like a publicist for bands or something. And, took all the PR classes, did all that. But then I ended up landing myself internship in radio with my current morning show. But this was a while ago when I was in college. And I realized how much fun morning talk radio was. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. Now, as everything doesn't always go perfect, it definitely didn't go perfect for me because they had no job openings when I was an intern. I kept working multiple jobs throughout my younger college days until I worked in marketing. I worked for a real estate talk show. I've worked for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I've been on a hype squad. I've done a million different things, but I knew that my heart was in radio. So eventually I took a big demotion from a marketing position to get back into radio 10 years ago now, and I have been doing it ever since then. And so I started back in radio on Cities 97's morning show, producing their show. And then an opening came with the Dave Ryan show on KDWB. So I slithered my way back in there and then have been doing it ever since. So I've gone from assistant producer to executive producer and co-host, and to now just I used to be called Weather Girl Jenny, and now I've finally gotten rid of that quirky radio name for the most part, and I'm just Jenny on the radio. So
It's funny you say that because I actually completely forgot that you were known as Weather Girl Jenny, and somebody the other day was like Weather Girl Jenny, and I was like, that's right, that's how you started out, kind of in the industry under the KWB side. I was like, that doesn't even ring a bell anymore until somebody said that. So it's funny you said that.
Yeah, and a lot of people for the longest time, and maybe still to this day, think that all I used to do on the radio was like a 10-second weather report. They had no idea that I was just the one running everything behind the scenes. Like I was a producer. I wasn't just, that was just one of my little daily tasks was doing the weather. And so that's how I landed that little quirky radio name.
Yeah. Well, even though you kind of do the Timberwolves and you did some Minnesota sports, still take it you're a Packer fan.
I am a Packer fan still, yes. I couldn't change that. I do love the Timberwolves from working with them. And I don't hate the Vikings. I just would never cheer for them if they were playing the Packers, you know? I'm not one of those annoying Packer fans.
Right. Well, also being a Packer fan, I just had to throw that in there.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned that you kind of didn't really initially see yourself jumping into the radio side, but still kind of in the industry with music and that production side. Did you know starting out even as a kid when you're in high school that you were still like, I want to be in the media, the producing side, or did that kind of always grow over time as you kind of started doing some courses?
Yeah, no, it definitely grew over time. I would have never guessed that I was going to end up doing production, radio, or anything. I always thought I'm really good at math and I'm also a good writer, which usually like your creative brain and then your like detail oriented brain don't always go together. But so I thought I was going to be either some kind of writing or maybe a math teacher. So this was definitely not what I thought I was going to be doing with my life, but that's why I think it's great in college. If you go to college and you land some internships, you get to try different things. Because I did do a public relations internship, and I thought that I was going to be doing PR, and I hated it. I was like, this is not my cup of tea. This is not what I want to do with the rest of my life. So I'm really happy I have a variety of different experience because it made me learn what was fun to me, but then it also made me learn what I was good at. And so you don't really know until you start doing things. And truthfully, my entire radio career was me just like learning day by day because in radio, they don't really train you. They kind of just throw you in and it's like, here you go, learn this. And that's, I mean, I stood out compared to other people because I used critical thinking and I taught myself a million things and I was reliable on top of it. So I think I kind of learned through all of that I'm a really good producer because I can figure out things on my own. I am detail oriented. I am creative as well. So I have that quality. So yeah, definitely wasn't expecting to ever be in production. That would have never crossed my mind if you would have asked 16-year-old Jenny, what are you going to do with your life?
Yeah, and a little background because I mean we don't ever talk about work honestly outside of when we're seeing each other in real life. Jenny and I are usually in workout clothes and our hair up in a ponytail.
Yep.
So even for me too, like I definitely understand that because when I went to college, I went to college for accounting. Right, my first job out of college was in compliance. When I started here at Gradient, it was under the compliance side of it, and so I never would have saw myself today being under the marketing side and working with the financial advisors, but it really was the people around me and really understanding their business and getting to know them that really kind of continued to draw me to this side of the world and just that's using this side of my brain. Did you have anybody throughout your journey that kind of inspired you that you were as you were doing these different internships or things that you really stood out of like this is why I also am passionate about going this direction with maybe people around you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I would say pretty much everyone I've worked with on my morning show has been an inspiration to some extent. Obviously, Dave Ryan's been doing it. If you listen, if you're from the Twin Cities and you listen, he's been doing it for 32 years. He is a master of radio. He definitely, I mean, he consults other radio shows across the country because he is like a go-to and people go to him. So I have learned so much through him and just honestly watching him day by day and still to this day, even though I've been on the show for 9 years now, I'm still learning things from him constantly. So definitely him. Fallon had a huge role in me getting back into radio after I was like in the real world doing marketing and stuff like that. She helped me kind of like she honestly told me about a job opening with Cities 97. So that was helpful. And then when I got back in, you know, we kind of just like became closer and she's always been someone I look up to as another female in the radio industry since we worked with truly mostly men. So she's been a big help. And then just other people along the way for production sides. There was an old digital guy on our team and he taught me so much behind the scenes that he also just taught himself. And so there's that. Our old executive producer, Steve, taught me a ton. So really most people that I've crossed paths with my morning show have taught me things or I've gone out of my way to learn from other people. Like I've sat in on our music directors day by day schedule before. And we used to have a lot more people that worked at the radio station, as a lot of industries have thinned out over the years. We don't have quite as many, but there was one guy who was kind of like a gopher who did just production work for all kinds of different radio stations within our iHeart radio cluster. And I would go and sit in and watch what he does and learn from him and stuff. So I kind of went out of my way to learn and I would stay after hours to learn. But yeah, most people that I've worked with have been really great to teach me things, but also I've stepped up and learned on my own too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you did kind of say a couple things that are kind of going to feed me into my next kind of question here side of it is with a lot of industries, there's certain industries, one, the financial industry being one, engineering being the other, radio being one as well, is historically they've really been male dominated industries. And over the years, we've really had a lot of women come in and really take on their running the show or co-hosting the show and really taking those leadership roles, which have been awesome. And I remember you posted I think you were doing a podcast, but it was also a live event, and you were working with female financial advisors, and that was kind of like my aha moment of like, oh, why have I never thought about Jenny? Like, she's definitely in our world. She's definitely really leading the co-hosting with the show and everything you're doing around there. But it probably wasn't easy because you mentioned it. Dave Ryan, he is a staple name here in the cities. He's been doing the show for over 30 years. And so you entered in a male dominated industry with somebody who's well known in that many years. Was there any challenges? I know you said he was an inspiration to you, but was there any obstacles that he helped you overcome or anybody else with that kind of entering in that industry as a female?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of different things. I think every industry is probably very different based on what you do for your job. But I mean, for me in particular, um, listeners don't love to hear a lot of female voices, which is really frustrating to hear. Like that's just been an, I mean, it's definitely changed over the years, but they would prefer to have men on a show. So if Dave ever took vacation and it was only Fallon and myself when Fallon used to be on the show, and we would just get the most hate and negative comments because it's two hens talking right now is this kind of stuff that we would deal with. And so that's really frustrating to hear because, you know, I think we have just as much to say and are just as good as at our jobs as he can be. I know he's Dave Ryan, but I think that there is a stereotype with what people want to hear. I also think that because Dave built this personality within the Twin Cities, anything Dave does, people love, and that's great. I am very happy to work under someone like that. However, if I have a different opinion, I will get dragged for things as a female, whereas other male coworkers on the show don't seem to get dragged as much. It's very strange how people react to women in radio versus men in radio. And not always. People call Dave out for things he says and does sometimes too. It's not always like that. But there is definitely a little bit more nitpicking with myself as a female in this industry than men. You guys obviously work in like a financial industry, so hopefully it's different because you have to deal with money and stuff like that every day. But there's definitely some paid discretion or not discretion, discrimination a little bit still with a lot of the men making a lot more money than women. So that's definitely a challenge that a lot of people that are female in radio have had to deal with as well. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely been challenges, but nothing that's there's always a solution, I feel like, or if someone's being mean to me because they don't like something I said and they believe what Dave said over what I said, I just have had to learn to brush that off my shoulder. So that's kind of like you get a thick skin and you can't care about everything that people say.
And it definitely comes with the confidence too, right? Like you knowing that you have the knowledge, you have the right opinions, the right voice, that having that confidence and probably the people around you that also encourage you there. Because I know you mentioned Fallon. So Fallon also she does the afternoon show right now.
She does, yep.
Yeah. So you and Fallon are great friends, and so having that other female companion where she can kind of motivate you and encourage you, and you guys can after the show kind of help each other grow has probably also been a awesome kind of partnership that you've had along the way too.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, she is one of the number one people I look up to, mostly because I mean, she's so talented. I just think she's so talented when it comes to radio. But also, she really stands up for everything she believes in. And, you know, like there's a lot of boys club things that happen in our industry. And one day we had a big meeting with everyone in the company, and then afterwards the high ups that had flown into town for it took like some of the male personalities out for lunch, and not a single female was a part of that. And Fallon went up to our president and was like, hey, it's 2020, whatever. Maybe we should be a part of these conversations too. And you shouldn't just be taking the guys out for lunch and stuff. So she definitely speaks up for what she believes in. And so she is always an inspiration for me because I am not always great at confrontation. And I've gotten better at it because I know I need to stand up for myself more. But yeah, there's definitely things that we deal with that I'm sure all the women in your industry as well deal with as just different but similar.
100%. And that's definitely something where when we started our Women in Business events, our podcast, but also our live events, we just had one actually last week when we had one. And it is so motivating when you get 20 to 40 to 60 of us females in a room and the way you can collaborate, but also you can encourage people and inspire them and really share the ideas and say that that's a great idea. Like, how do we lean into it? How do you become confident in the direction you're going? So having those people around you definitely, I think, helps in every single industry. And I know you work with a lot of outside industries as well with females too. So it's not even always just focusing with women in the radio side of it. It's always working with females that are in other industries that can help you grow probably as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we're not going to dive into this too much because I want to save this more for the live event. But I would say one thing that seeing you on your social media and just a lot of females is one of the things that I personally think that has really helped shift this kind of day and age when it comes to podcasts and radio is when it comes to getting females on camera and feeling comfortable in their skin is how it's really shifted that side of it because so many females are willing to jump on camera to share their stories, to be vulnerable and be personal. And that's really the direction that people want to see. So I think that's kind of, in my opinion, kind of made a big shift in kind of how do we help females continue to dive into this space is people willing to jump on camera and share their personal stories.
Yes, exactly. And I will say, I mean, if you see my social media, you might think like, oh, she must be so comfortable on camera. And to an extent, I am. There are moments where I don't always like love everything I have to do. If I have to do some silly video for the morning show or something. But I used to be the person who hated her voice, hated how she looked on camera, wanted to look perfect all the time before the social media that we have nowadays. When I first started on the morning show, we did Facebook Lives all the time. That was like our big thing. So we'd go live during the morning, and I felt like I had to have this full face of makeup on and just look pristine. And I'm like, we don't work in TV. Like, that's so unnecessary. But then eventually it just gets to a point where it's like, you get the real me. Okay. You don't get like this made up, done up, fake person. So I've gotten so comfortable with like, cool, you want to record a video right now for something? Sounds good. Do I look my best today? Maybe not, but that's not the point of the video. And same with hearing my voice on things. I always tell people, if you're uncomfortable with hearing your voice, just start doing Instagram stories, just start talking on them. And eventually you're not going to think twice about what your voice sounds like. Cause I don't anymore. I really don't. I'll hear myself on the radio sometimes and not even like recognize it's me. And I'm like, oh, that was me. That was like a commercial that I did because I don't know. I just don't pay attention or care or nitpick like I used to.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I know we'll dive a little bit more into the live event because that's where I think sometimes people hesitate to getting into podcasts, even when it's just hearing your voice. I mean, I'm the same way. I don't even have a voicemail on my cell phone because I'm like, oh, I hate listening to my voice, which I don't even call myself. But it's the little things like that where you're like, do I really sound like that? So we are excited to kind of get some of that in the September event itself. But I know you've had a ton of accomplishments over the years. Is there anything in awards that you received or anything like that that really stands out that you're super proud about being in the industry and really growing and being where you're at today?
Yes. So, I mean, I have a personal one, but I'll start with the one that just like makes me absolutely love what I get to do for work, which is we do a broadcast at Children's Hospital every year in September for their like a big match day that they do. And to be around these kids who are going through the hardest thing ever, and they're so young and they have this spirit about them that, you spilled your coffee in the morning and you're upset and you're crabby the rest of the day. Whereas this kid is battling cancer and has a big smile on their face. It's like those moments where we raise a ton of money for a good organization, and then I get to see what I do and then impact that radio has on a community as a whole. That is one of my proudest and most favorite days of the year that I get to do. I leave that broadcast every single day because we do it from the actual hospital, and every day or every year that we do it, I just like leave it almost in like happy and maybe a few sad tears because obviously I'm very sad for these kids going through things. But that's definitely one of those moments in radio that I will forever, ever remember till the day I die. And then accomplishments, I did win a Gracie Award, which, if you're unaware of what that is, it's just Women in Media Awards, TV, podcasting, radio, all that stuff. So I won the Producer of the Year of the local one because there's national syndicated ones as well. But I won the local one 2 years ago now, I'm thinking. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. So that was huge. I got to go out to this beautiful banquet in New York City for it and accept the award, and just being on the stage with all of these other women I admire in the industry was so surreal, and definitely felt imposter syndrome to me, because I'm like, who am I to be up here with these women who have been doing radio for forever? And then I got over that because I was like, well, clearly I'm somebody if I won this award. And so like every once in a while you do have to acknowledge, if you're good at your job, that like you do deserve the recognition for it. So definitely the Gracie Award was huge for me, and it was a very proud moment in my career when my boss called and told me, and all the morning show, we were all on a Teams meeting, and I bawled my eyes out. I was so shocked. I was like, this is crazy. So yeah, that's another one.
I mean, that one I did a little research on your work life, and definitely the Gracie Award. I mean, for anybody on the call, like you should definitely go out and just look at that award. Like that is a big deal and a big award, so that's something that you should definitely always be super excited about. If when you were there in the New York, was there anybody that you saw that you were kind of starstruck?
Yeah, I mean, there's some radio DJs out on stations in New York that I have been near or by in passing at like morning show conventions or something, but just to be in the same room as them because they were honoring other people, it was great. I mean, there's a woman named Angela Yee that does her own show now, and she used to be on a morning show called The Breakfast Club in New York, and I admire her so much. Not a lot of women in my industry have their own shows, so it's always amazing to see women who have worked their way into getting their own show and very much deserved it. So definitely her. There's another woman that works in radio in Texas on a syndicated morning show, and I love her name is Rula, and I love her so much because she's so good at what she does, but she also has what is not defined as like a radio voice. And I don't feel like I define myself as someone who has a radio voice. Like some people just have that really beautiful voice. I have like a lower tone voice, stuff like that. And that's kind of how Rula is. So I love seeing someone kick ass like she does and not have the stereotypical radio voice, but she's talented enough to still make waves in the industry and earn these awards outside of the fact that she might not fit the perfect mold.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be definitely intimidating. Anytime you get to see somebody that's a role model or just somebody that you're a fan of, I mean, you're around different artists and musicians all the time. So I think at probably any moment, that's probably still that awestruck moment. Anytime you kind of run into somebody or at any of your events of like, oh, I'm actually here. So that's probably always really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, unfortunately, we don't do Jingle Ball around here anymore. But that was always our big concert where we had so many different big artists at it every December. And it was crazy to just be like, oh, I get to hang out in this meet and greet room with these like Pitbull. Are you serious? Like what? Those moments were crazy to me.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's all I had for you today, Jenny. And one thing that me personally, knowing you for over the years, it's so much fun just getting to learn about your background more. For being in the industry, almost 10 years, moving your way up to be co-host, the executive producer at the station, and for everybody that will be at our event, that's the #1 hit station here in the Twin Cities. So that's definitely a huge accomplishment itself. But not only just you on the morning show, you guys have your own podcast now. So you're definitely somebody that has entered this space and really does a phenomenal job of creating your personal life and your work, but also then you network with other females in the industry. So come September, we're really excited because you work with other female industry leaders and you help promote them. You work with each other and you really encourage them. And how do they grow their business? How do you guys network? But you also do so much in the community, and that's one thing we work with our advisors also is how do they take their business and then how do you get back to the community? So I know you mentioned the Children's Hospital, but I know you do, I think it's a Stair for Climb. So there's a number of different ways that you work with giving back as well into the community side. So we're excited to, in September, pick your knowledge and brain on entering into the podcast space. Because I know it's definitely an industry where we see a lot of it from a marketing side, a media side, and it's always probably not the first comfortable step for people to take if it's not what they're doing in the day-to-day side. So we're excited to dive a little bit deeper in that in September. So we're excited to have you here.
Thanks. I am excited to chat with everyone in September. I'm really looking forward to it. I love sharing knowledge and I love connecting with people, which is why I'm so hyped that you reached out to me to do this. And so I'm so excited.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you. I know Jenny's actually going to be leaving for Iceland. So Jenny, have a phenomenal trip. And then if anybody, we will reach out to our attendees that joined it today. So if anybody has any questions that we would love to talk about or chat about come September, we can always connect on those because we're excited just to learn more from somebody that's an expert in their field.